Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Salibonani. I would like to call the session to order. I don't want to call it a meeting. It's a special session of ideas. So I would like to call the session to order. I would have loved to start with a word of prayer. We are used to that in this part of the country. Unless there is a pastor somewhere. If there isn't, I know I have my own pastor who will pray. But do you have a pastor? I know Mrs. Moyo Anastasia will pray for us. She's good at that. She can take us to the Lord. Thank you.
Let's pray. Oh, our Heavenly Father, we thank Thee for this occasion. We thank Thee for this day that you had prepared for us. We thank Thee for all the people that have made it now, and those that are still traveling to be with us. Be with them so that they join us in this occasion that is very important to each one of us. As we deliberate, as we share ideas, as we talk about what runs this and that world, may you be with us. Glorified be thy name, in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, we are gathered this evening for a very exciting session on ideas. Ideas, those of you who know me will know that I will always say ideas move the world. Ideas change the world. Ideas transform the world. So we are gathered this evening to share some ideas from one of us, one of those members of society that we can all count, and it doesn't need any introduction. But let me say to you, I have known this man, and not better than you, but I have known him where we were seated to discuss ideas at a level of state, at a level of governing the country. So I can safely say I know him, and I was wondering why he chose me to chair the meeting. Then I discovered that, by the way, I used to chair a number of these meetings when we were together. I used to chair a number of these executive meetings, cabinet meetings with my friends here. They would know when I was in the office of the Prime Minister, in his office. So I'm not surprised that he picked on me to chair this session. But a very interesting man, by the way, and very controversial, by the way. And when we are here, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, this is an academic, a quasi-academic exercise. So it's not a political gathering. We are here about ideas of the state, how to get our state better, how to get our country better. And because there's been a problem in our country where there's been a de-intellectualization of the public sphere, it is very important to have somebody like Arthur coming back to re-intellectualize the public sphere so that we engage in terms of ideas. So he is here to launch as his third leg. He started launching his book in Joburg last week, and this week he was in Harare, and this is the third leg. And from here he's going to Oxford, I think, and some other places in the UK. So he's a glocal. You know what a glocal is? When you are a glocal, you are global and local at the same time. So he's at home, and he will also go to the world to launch his idea, his book, and this is number 3, book number 3, and look at its volume. It's voluminous. When I read it before it was bound like this. I was reading the script, and I was saying to myself, but what will I write about government anymore, the inclusive government about Zimbabwe? This guy has exhausted everything, and he's unfair for that. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, without wasting your time, Honorable Mutambara is the former Deputy Prime Minister of the Republic of Zimbabwe, as you know, between 2009 and 2013. And during that time, some of you would know that the country was much, much better. When that government was put together, when we left this place going to Harare to set up that government, there were queues. Within a week, there were no queues for fuel, no queues for sugar, no queues. Then Coltart, I'll talk about it later. There was nothing. And immediately there was a change in the country, there was energy in the country. You could feel energy in the air. And he was the Deputy Prime Minister at that time. And I happened to have gone around with him. I will talk about some of these things later without wasting his time. I think what you want to hear more is from him. So for now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce the former Deputy Prime Minister, a scholar, a public intellectual, a local, an ideas man, a man of the people, a former political leader. I don't know whether, but I know him to be a former political leader. Is now really into intellectualization of the public sphere than party politics. But he can correct me if he has decided to change. Otherwise, Honorable Deputy Prime Minister, this is your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gordon Moyo, for that introduction. Now, with that kind of introduction, who would want to speak? You'd rather go home and hope that the introduction was actually correct. Because you might open your mouth and undermine yourself and decampaign yourself since you've been given a glamorous introduction. But anyway, I'll try my best not to decampaign myself. What we're talking about today is in search of the Zimbabwe dream. But the problems we're trying to address are all over Africa. So in fact, we're talking about in search of the African dream beyond Zimbabwe. Also, these problems are also happening and across the global south. So we're also in pursuit of the global south ambition. So that's our discussion today. In search of the Zimbabwean dream, in search of the African dream, but most significantly, in search of the global south ambition. That's our agenda today. Now, the concentration of this book is on ideas and solutions. Why are we doing this? We are sick and tired of being sick and tired of describing problems. We're tired of that. What are the answers? What are the solutions? Let's spend a bit more time crafting solutions for Zimbabwe, crafting solutions for the continent, crafting solutions for the global south. That's our mission today in this book. The book comes in 3 versions: Volume 1, which we launched in Bulawayo; Volume 2, which we also launched in Bulawayo as well. And those 3 books, including today's book, they're about documentation of the evolution of my thoughts, ideas and perspectives over 40 years. From 1983, when I was in Form 3, to now. 40 years of my thoughts. Some of them I cringe when I looked at what I said. For example, in Book 1, I wrote an essay. In 1986, there was an essay competition in the country which said, the one-party parliamentary system, rather than the multi-party system, is more conducive and relevant to Zimbabwe's thrust towards the socialist development. Do you agree? Give a reasoned reply. And we all agreed. Most of the young people in Form 6 agreed. Of course, we're wrong, but we agreed. And I put that essay in Book 1. Fast forward, we then opposed one-party state at university, and so on and so forth. We are documenting ideas, and also a bit of autobiographical material. Volume 1 was this one. Volume 2, that one. And now we are on this one. What do we mean by thought leadership? Thought leadership is about intellectual influence through innovative and pioneering thinking. So we're very ambitious. We're saying, why can't we use ideas to change the world? Why can't we use innovative and pioneering thinking to change the world? That's what we're trying to do with thought leadership. Okay? Thought leadership is about how we change the world, how we use ideas to change the world. Now, why is this important? There is a paradox, Dr. Moyo. Those with power and influence have neither ideas nor solutions. And those with ideas and solutions have neither power nor influence. I don't know where you fit in this framework, good doctor. What we're saying, why can't we have a marriage between power and influence on one end, and then ideas and solutions on the other, so that the ideas and solutions can bring about a better life for our people. But we need to close that gap, because in general, those with power or influence have neither ideas nor solutions. And those with ideas and solutions have neither power nor influence. And some people have neither. They have no power, they have no influence, and they have no ideas. And also, those are the useless ones. And I'm sure they're not in Bulawayo also, they're in Harare. The key message is, we must read, we must write, we must document, we must succeed against all odds. We must have both academic excellence and social responsibility. I don't want to see any student leader who has a sub who doesn't do well in school. If you are failing in school, don't be a student leader. You don't deserve to be a leader if you are mediocre intellectual. I know it's a bit harsh, but we need to make sure we balance between academic excellence and social responsibility, and also that knowledge is global. We must produce and articulate alternative forms of knowledge. We can't allow the Europeans and Americans to be the authorities on the history of Zimbabwe, on the history of Africa. When we went to school, we used to say, according to T.O. Ranger, according to David Beach. No, we must say according to Robo, according to Bebe, according to Moyo. Let us write our own narratives. He or she who defines you controls you. We must define ourselves as Africans. Okay? Every successful civilization has had a reading culture and a writing culture. Every successful civilization has had documentation. Documentation is divine. And we have wisdom as Africans. Ubuntu. I am because we are. We are because I am. I am because you are. I am because we all are here. Munu munu kevani. This Ubuntu, how are we using it in business? How are we using it in running the country? How are we using it in the academy? Are you writing about it? Because we as Africans believe in collective humanity. We believe in shared dignity. We are more concerned about collective success as opposed to individual success. This is what we're pushing in this book. And as we do this, there's a particular context for Zimbabwe. Low production, low productivity, low capacity utilization, unprecedented industrialization, trade deficit, and also a currency crisis. These are the issues that are defining the context of the book. But most significantly, Zimbabwe has been in the news for very bad reasons. We have unprecedented corruption and looting of natural resources. We have a glaring incompetence and statecraft illiteracy. There's a difference between the first one and the second one. You know, the first one is malign. You intend to do evil. You are corrupt. You are looting. You intend to do evil. The second one, you might mean well, but you have no capacity. You have no competence. And you end up destroying the country because of lack of literacy, because of lack of capacity. You must always understand that sometimes people pray every night, they mean well, they're Christians, they're Muslims, or whatever religion, but because they are incompetent, they end up destroying the country. Clansmanship, ethno-nationalism, ethnicity. You know, those words are there because people are saying, no, you don't use tribalism, it's an old term. But there's a lot of tribalism in Zimbabwe. Now let's cut it to the chest. There's tribalism. Mugabe was a tribalist, but a bit sophisticated and finesse. This one is very crude. The current leader is a crude tribalist, a clansman. We need to fix that. The gold mafia, you heard about the gold mafia. My book will explain to you why these things happen. My book will show you why we have tribalism in Zimbabwe. My book will show you why Zunati Moti paid the vice president and the president for the coup and paid the judge. My book will explain those farms. You know, we don't ask the right questions. Bona is 21 farms. We won't find out through the divorce. Why don't you ask questions? If Bona has 21, what about the two sons? How many do they have? So let's assume, let's be very conservative and say President Mugabe had 40 farms. Very conservative. If the president had 40, how about his vice president? How about his ministers? How about his army general? How about his judges? Are you naive enough to think Mugabe had 40 and the judge had 1, vice president 1, minister 1? No. In a corrupt system, if the president is 40, the vice will have, pick a number, 10, 20, not 1, certainly not 1. And also, in my book, I also reviewed some interesting information about Mugabe had no faith in the land reform program. He says to me, Mutambara, in my book, read my book, Mutambara, this land reform program will be challenged by future generations. 50 years from now, they'll be sitting and say, those guys in the year 2000, they passed on down the land to themselves. We're not there. Let's reverse this thing. Now, if Mugabe was with that mindset, you know what he did? He doesn't have enough land, he bought those farms. They have title deeds. And for the investigative journalists here, anybody in this system has a title deed. Not that there is, that's for war vets and some middle managers and some middle army. Any minister, any judge, any commander of consequence is holding on to title. I explained in my book how it was done. You want to know how it was done? During Gono, during Benin. Okay? What they'll do first, they'll chase the farmer from the farm, and the farmer will run away, go to Australia, go to New Zealand, go to Harare, and live in a shack. They can't pay school fees for their kids. They're desperate. They're destitute. And then they follow the farmer 6 months later or 8 months later. Mr. Farmer, Madam Farmer, how much is your farm worth? Oh, my farm is so expensive. Our farm is $50 million. $50 million? We'll never get that. We'll never pay you compensation anyway. Well, how about 4 million? How about 4? I mean, you want 15? I got 4. Now the white farmer is desperate. He's destitute. She's destitute. She can't pay school fees for her kids. And you then go 4 million. Grab the 4 million, sign away the title, they keep quiet. Because they don't want to be identified as part of the ZANU-PF patronage. I have the evidence, it's in my book. How do they get $4 million? How can they get $4 million? Aha! How do you get $4 million? Let's bet. You know, under Gono, let's assume that the official rate is 20, 1 to 20. The payroll is 1 to 200. Those are the numbers. If you start with $10,000 US, 10,000 is $2 of your own. You go to the payroll market, you buy bond notes or ZIL dollars using payroll rate. You take that and go to Gono. Hey, Gono, here I come. I'm General. I'm Grace. I'm Gabi. Can you sell me US dollars at the official rate? You buy the US dollars at the official rate. You go back to the market. You buy bond notes. If you just do it 3 times, you can convert $10,000 US into $2 million US in a week with no work. Ask them. Anyone close to God, anyone close to the system could do that. Just at 10,000, you can convert it into $2 million US by burning. And what we do with the $2 million? We pay for your farm. So right now you think these guys have nationalities. They've got title. Now, here's the story. When Gordon Moore becomes president, he can touch those farms. They got title. Either you believe in title or you don't. So these guys, these women, these men are safe under any regime because they're holding on to title. And Mugabe said that to me in not so many words. Anyway, so those bona farms, for now we know it's a fact because it was in the court papers. But guess what? The Second Republic, so-called, knew about the bona farms. Sure, they did. Anyway, in my book I explain all these things. The SI, why it happened, and then the helicopters. My book gives you context. My book gives you the rationale why we're having problems in the country. And again, we're emphasizing the currency. We need to make sure we've reserved to back the currency. We need fiscal consolidation. I'm emphasizing solutions, what we can do around the currency. We can talk about that more in our discussions. With political problems, with the coup d'etat in 2017, with the fraudulent election in 2018, so the regime in Zimbabwe is founded on a coup d'etat. You can't build democracy on the foundation of a coup d'etat. So we have a problem of illegitimacy, we have a problem of lack of leadership and statesmanship. Now we have elections coming up. Job Scala is in prison. Ngaru Vume is locked up. How can you have an election when leaders of the opposition are locked up? How can you have an election when the voters' roll is not accessible to the opposition? Also, the voters' roll is in shambles. You've heard this week. People go for their names, they can't find them. And 3 days ago, on the 31st of May, they passed that patriotic bill, closing the democratic space. How can we have a free and fair election within this context? My book explains the context. We must build governance, we must develop legitimacy, we must work on macroeconomic stability. This is the vision that we need to be pushing for. I'm emphasizing on solutions. We want a peaceful, democratic, and prosperous nation. There is no second republic in Zimbabwe. There is no new dispensation in Zimbabwe. A second republic will be democratic, peaceful, and prosperous. It doesn't exist. A new dispensation is earned and not declared. And we need to develop this shared national vision and also a competitive national brand. What is our national vision across the political divide? What is our strategy to take us from where we are to the promised land of our vision? And then execution, execution, execution. Doing is more important than dreaming. Where is our implementation matrix? Who is going to do what? When are they doing it? Where are the resources coming from? How are you going to measure success or lack of it? How are you going to monitor and evaluate? How are you going to feed back? These are the solutions we're proffering as we move on. And we have what we call the hexagon of branding in those 5 areas. We need solutions to our country. A competitive identity for Zimbabwe, to develop Zimbabwe's reputation in order to improve our global competitiveness. Why ideas and solutions? We in civic society, we in the academy, we in industry, we in the political parties must offer an alternative vision and a compelling strategy. It's not enough to criticize and describe problems. We must provide actionable, implementable timeline and well-resourced plans. And then, of course, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation. We need redemptive paradigms for Zimbabwe, for Africa, and for the global south. I'm trying to encourage Dr. Moe here that as we criticize, let us also have our solutions. They might be imperfect, but let's have some answers. Okay? And the book structure is a rocky start to the GNU. Get a bit of that. Our agenda, the economy, political reforms, and the constitution. We did well on the economy. We did well on the constitution. We failed on political reforms. Mugabe and the liberation struggle. I got along with Mugabe. I didn't sell out. I didn't sell out, but I got along with him. Why? 4 reasons. We spent a lot of time together. Why did he like me? Number 1, Mugabe was an Anglophile. He loved the British. And I went to Oxford, so he had a soft spot for me because I'm Oxonian. Number two, Mugabe was an academic chauvinist. He loved education. I got a doctorate from Oxford. And he liked that this man went to school. Number three, I'm a history buff. I love history. Mugabe likes telling stories. So that's tell me about Joshua Ngomo. Tell me about Togogara. Tell me about Ndabani Sitole. And then you sing, literally sing. He was very good with old stuff. His current memory of current matters was very poor, but the old stuff was great. So he liked telling me these stories, so we used to get along fine. That's number three. Number four, why did he like me? Because I was principled. If it's a yes, it's a yes. If it's a no, it's a no. I don't change when I go outside the room. Some of my friends, some of his friends will change. His friends will change. He will tell me who they are. With me, once I decide, no, Mugabe is a no. It's no. Yes, Mugabe is a yes. It's a yes. And he liked that. Because then you can make decisions. In book 2, I described how we stand at GNU. And Mbeki was very upset when one of us was changing. And he says, he bent the table when we did book 2. So that was an interesting end game. We will see a few of that. Running things. The things we need, Golden Moyo, are Pan-Africanism as a thing. We need to work on that. Regional integration, we need that. African agency. Dr. has done work on African agency. We need to be in charge of many things. Look at COVID. We are not in charge. African agency is a major thing, and Dr. Moyo is talking about this stuff. The discipline of gratitude. I won't say much about this, but simply we are saying grateful people are happy people, not the other way around. If you are grateful, you are happy. In fact, I had a fictional conversation with Mugabe there where I was going to confront him and give him 2 quotations. When I grow up, I want to be a teacher if I can. Quote number 1. Quote number 2, I don't know anyone who could run this country better than me. Then I was saying to Mugabe, who said these 2 phrases? I'm sure of this, I said it. Now, the first one was a very humble boy at Mutambara, who could not even be certain that could be a teacher. When I grow up, I want to be a teacher if I can. This arrogant man now in the year 2004, I don't know anyone in this country who would have run this country better than. How dare you say this, Robert? You don't know anybody. Anyway, he was no longer grateful. And that's why taken out by coup d'etat. Grateful people are happy people. Don't be too greedy. Be ambitious, but be grateful. Be thankful. Thank Allah, thank God, thank Bazimu, thank whatever, thank your atheism, whatever you believe. Be grateful. Preserve the asset. Technology is your friend. Artificial intelligence, artificial general intelligence, chatbots. Don't fight these technologies. Use them to solve your problems. Don't fight AI. Ask yourself, how can I use AI to solve my problems? How can I use ChatGPT to develop education? Once technology has been developed or invented, you can't uninvent it. The physicist is here. Professor Dodo is here. You can't uninvent the technology. You can work with it. Technology is a tool, it's a double-edged sword, but it's your friend for whatever you're trying to do. But these are the things. Just to dramatize regional integration. Paper, good to see you, paper. Regional integration. These are not economies. Is that your country then? That's a Mickey Mouse economy. Zimbabwe is not an economy, it's a Mickey Mouse economy. South Africa, Botswana, 2.4 million people. 41, these are not functional economies. We must talk about SADC, 380 million people. We must talk about TFTA, bigger economies, 830 million people. Those are economies now. China, 1.4 billion people. India, the US, these are economies. And when we work together as Africans, we can marshal and master 1.35 billion people. Collective GDP, $2.5 trillion. Can you imagine if I was to walk up and say, here come I'm the African. I speak on behalf of 1.3 billion people, and behind me I have a GDP of $2.5 trillion. The Americans will listen to me, not out of love, out of economics. The Chinese will respect me. But if you go in Zimbabwe, you get short-changed. So we need to work together through that, not this. This is global GDP. Do you see Zimbabwe? Do you see South Africa? Do you see Africa? Yes, in the corner, they do to Africa. So we must go exactly to Africa. Zimbabwe is not there. How can a non-existent country negotiate with China? You don't exist and you want to make a deal with China. You're not on the map. Go and look, you're not there. There's an Africa there. There's China. There's US. There's Germany. There's Spain. I can see the other people. I don't see Botswana. I don't see Swaziland. But it's Swatini. Which is, please don't go and talk to China. You're too small to be consequential. Go is Africa. 1.3 billion people. $2.5 trillion. Then you can make sense. I'm dramatizing the importance of these things and also regional clusters. Do you know if we do diamonds as Botswana, South Africa, and DRC, we control diamonds. Platinum, we can control just us in South Africa. Okay. Revelations in the book, I've already talked about arbitrage. Arbitrage is where we have official and parallel. Do you know what it means, David? Everyone is now a criminal. A pastor, if you give a pastor $500 US and they want to change it, will they go to the official rate? They go to parallel. And you've criminalized the pastor. You've criminalized the bishop. So the problem with criminalizing everyone, we end up saying, everyone is a criminal, so I can even go and steal. It's now relative now. The pastor is a criminal, he's changing on the parallel market. So we're all criminals. So no one is responsible. Arbitrage has the danger of making everyone a criminal. But more importantly, it's a looting tool. And I showed you earlier on how farms were bought using arbitrage. And I've told you that the title is, these guys have titled these 99 lists are for the, if you have a 99 list, you are unimportant. Please, war vet, small soldier, small businessman, with your 99 list, you are unimportant. Important people are holding title. Know that. And Mugabe's views revealed, struggled. Now I'm going to move so we can get more for a discussion. When we say documentation, it's not just writing words. We need pictures. We need videos. We need other artifacts. That's how we record history. And in this book, we try to do just that. The book is 968 pages with 8 sections of pictures to entertain you when the reading gets boring. Without pictures, it's 720 pages because they don't put in page numbers on the picture pages. So it's 720 pages of written stuff and that. And so you can see us there with President Zuma and the inclusive government. The Chinese were able to explain to the Chinese that we don't want you to get raw materials. Come and do beneficiation with that. But of course, when we left government, the other guys went back to the old model. That's my wife, Jackie. She's a rock star in her own right. She's doing much better than me. You know, someone said in a rally, oh, Mutambara, you married your equal. No, I married my superior. That woman is a CEO, and she's sitting on 3 boards. So I'm here rocking up, but I'm married to my superior. So the superior is speaking there. But I'm saying we need to respect our spouses and give them space. Sometimes they are our superiors, you know. Then unity in the inclusive government, you see Mashakada and all that. My friend, they have explained why we got along. No selling out was that there was nothing to sell. we got along for the 4 reasons I gave you. And I got a lot of information. A lot of information. Mugabe's views on Chitepo, for example. You know, some people think Chitepo was trying to be like Mugabe. Mugabe tells me, when I went to Ghana to teach, I was trying to raise money so I can go to London and become a lawyer like Chitepo. He looked up to Chitepo, Mugabe. But he never told you because he wanted you to believe he's the alpha and omega of the revolution. But it is all, he really respected Chitepo. Count number 2, he doesn't believe that theory that Chitepo was killed by the Rhodesians. He suspects his own friends. But strategically, he doesn't talk about it because he made an alliance with them for power. But privately, he was very angry because he was very close to John Mataure. John Mataure was killed at the hands of ZANU. Tokugara says in the court, John Mataure was killed at the hands of ZANU, close court. John Mataure was the political commissar. Now, if you kill your own political commissar, what will stop you from killing the child? What's the difference between political commissar and child? Anyway, you find Mugabe's views on that in there. He did not believe in all that stuff, but he was a Machiavellian operator who believed in power and nothing else. And he was also a very nasty appetite for rumors. You know, when the Prime Minister was having his period of gallivanting and married that woman for 7 days, Lokadia, I went to do a banner with Mugabe, and Mugabe says to me, Konyaya Lokadia, and Mr. President, you got the CIO. There's nothing I can tell you about Lokadia that you don't know. I want you just to check. Anyway, lots of rumors and rumor guzzling. Now we signed the constitution, and those boys there. Again, yes, paper, is in the book. Where's paper? Yes, paper. He was running the country. Now he's useless and empty, but he was running the country. Paper. And Brother John Komo, I'm saying to you, when we write history, we need pictures. A picture speaks volumes. You know, we need videos. We need artifacts. The speaker there, and the wedding, and in the corner there we can see Gordon Moyo. He was the man behind that wedding. Was it French? It was okay now, it was and Chamisa there, and Madam Cooper, Mafupa. We're documenting all these things in pursuit of history. And then we have soccer, the World Economic Forum. We have to go there, Clinton, and then history is documented. Oh, Juru. Very interesting. I'm one of the few people who saw the dead body of him. It was skeletons, no flesh.
Yeah, sure.
I saw it. There was a chemical used. And I described it, I don't preempt my book, but I've got some interesting stories. And also Mugabe's reaction to the death is in the book. Edgar Tegere in Lacoste. And that one, we used to supervise him. So if you want to know whether there's a good president or not, ask me, the supervisor, the teacher. I mean, you can never do better than a teacher. Can you really do better than a teacher? I was the deputy prime minister and the principal. So there was Mugabe, Chandra, and myself as the supervisors of these young boys. So they're running countries, but we are the referees. I think God did agree. Anyway, but anyway, again, lots of views about the president. Oh yeah, they're in there. There are lots of views. You know, yeah, but read the book. Not very charitable, but they're in there. And then G40. And then printing, belling. And that one too in there. So anyway, we're saying that these pictures tell a story. The coup was in the making. The coup was in the making. We just didn't know it. God, and we were sleeping at the wheel. The coup was being cooked. And that's President Chamisa there, and Maduku, all these things. Now the interesting one here is this one. We attended the inauguration of the coup president. After the coup, Mnangagwa was made president. Shangrai, Chamisa, and myself went there. You have to ask us, where did we go? Read my book and I will explain why we went there. And then Chamisa said, congratulations. And I'm like, yes, let's do this. Anyway, we can't hide the pictures. We just need to explain. If we got it wrong, we explain where we got it wrong. But here we are congratulating the coup leader at his presidency. Now we're fighting, of course, but this is the lunch after that. Pictures tell a story more than words. This is Oxford, and all this is UJ. It's very important that we understand all these things. And then the old man dies. Then we went to bury the old man. You see Chamisa there. I want to just play, I'm getting to the end. I want to just play a video so we can see again the other type of documentation we're pushing for. Because Shusha was our major achievement. And a bit of politics, and then we stop, we kill it.
The Constitutional Select Committee led the process
holding public hearings and consultations over the making of a new constitution for Zimbabwe. 2 all-stakeholders conferences were held, and the draft was produced amid power struggles among the political players. The intervention of principles to the global political agreement gave way to the referendum.
We don't write a constitution for today. We write a constitution for posterity, for future generations.
As a country, we have invested so much in this process, in both financial and material terms, if indeed in time terms.
We are the ones who agreed that no, we should not have Kariba. We must now have a people-driven constitution.
This set the stage for approval by the electorate, parliament, and now it has been signed into law.
I think we can all say today is a great day for our country. For the first time in the history of this country, we have a constitution that we've authored on our own without the facilitation of foreigners. This is a dramatic improvement for the Lancaster House. I think that is what we should celebrate. Anyway, we can see that later on. Now, Dr. Gordon Moyo, am I done now with volume 4? Is this the end of my writing career? Certainly not. The next 2 projects for me is my book on artificial intelligence, artificial general intelligence, ChatGPT. That book is coming through. I just submitted my manuscript. It's going to be 1,000 pages. So it's going to get bigger with time. It's an engineering book. I was talking with Professor Dodo that let's write these things in there. So basically that's my next project. And then the second project is this one. Now this one is very interesting. The AGO Mutambara story from 1640 AD to the present. What I've done is I've done research 10 generations above my father. And then come down to my great-grandfather, grandfather, father. Then on the mother side the same. Then mother and father meet, they go to the chapel and get married, and then they produce first daughter, second daughter, third daughter, and the fourth and born, and then comes autobiographical. So this is, there will be no ideas in this book. There will be no solutions. I'll be just telling a story. And like volume 1, 2, 3. No fancy ideas, no motivation to change the world, just a good old story. History of Mutambara people in my history, starting from Mire. These are my ancestors. But I'm about right down to number 10. So number 9 is the first Mutambara, my great-grandfather. Then comes my grandfather, then comes my father. I'm number 12 in that line, right? And that's how I calculate. And that's the man who is Mutambara, great-grandfather, Mutambara number 1. Now that man had 12 wives and 43 children. I wish I could get back to that generation. And that's the tree for my great-grandfather. And that's my grandfather. He went down to 2 wives now. And then of course my father took 1. I wish to go back to the 12. Anyway, this book is about, my father went to 4th year, graduate. And then my mother was a primary school teacher. They got married in 62. Something happened. The village kids are stuck in the village. You can see I'm hungry. I have no food. What happened? Read the 4th volume to come. And those are my sisters. We are stuck in the village. You know, I stayed in Mutambara village for 11 years. And going to Mutari twice in 11 years. No, Mutari is very close to Chipanimani. But I had no opportunity to go to town. Only twice in 11 years. I was rural bound. I was in the village. Anyway. But guess what? Out of those things, 4 out of 4 PhD. PhD biology, PhD economics, PhD pharmacy, PhD yours truly from the village. What happened? That's the story. And out of the 2 out of 4 professors. The other one is the professor at odds. The other one is the professor who is here with us today. I'm dramatizing the importance of Ubuntu because my father was dead and these people were able to raise us to become 4 out of 4 PhDs. Anyway, that is material for the future book. We must stick to volume 3 for now. And as I summarize, please let us be clear on what we want, how we're going to solve it. Under governance, legitimacy, macroeconomic stability, all these things must be done. And we must write, we must document. And as I conclude, Dr. Gordon, we must take a personal interest in the success of Zimbabwe. We must take a personal interest in the success of Africa. You'll never be respected as an African until Africa is done well as a continent. You could be a superstar journalist, superstar lawyer, superstar engineer, CEO. That is nothing as long as the people of Zimbabwe are not doing well. And I always get in my own experience. I used to go to World Economic Forum, we saw Bill Clinton there, and Bill Gates, and I used to talk. You know, I love talking, right? They say, where are you from? I say, I'm coming out of MIT, NASA, rockets. No. Where are you? What's your country? I refuse to answer. I continue to describe myself. I'm coming out from McKinsey and Company out of Chicago. I'm MIT trained. Which country are you from? Eventually I say, I'm from Zimbabwe. Come on, Mutambara. You're from Zimbabwe. If you are that smart, how come your country is messed up? If you are that smart, how come there's cholera in Zimbabwe? Shame on you, Mutambara. You are no rock star. Thank you very much.
Let's clear hands for him, please. Hello. Let's clear hands for the professor. I am thoroughly impressed that this man is an engineer, but look at the work. This is political science analysis from an engineer. This is impressive, sir. We are thoroughly impressed. And I really appreciate the motivation and the challenge that let's look for solutions. The challenge with most academics, and I'm one of them, we spend the time in the diagnosis, analysis, and less of prognosis. See, diagnosis, you are looking at the problem, but with the prognosis is a bit above the diagnosis. There's also a proposal for solutions. So thank you for that. And the challenge that we should write, by the way, in academics, we say if you have never written, there is no evidence that you have ever thought intellectually. Now, as a there is no evidence that I'm saying intellectually. Anyway, allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to invite Honorable Coltart, David Coltart, the former Minister of Education. He has worked very closely with the Professor. He is going to give us some few words because of time, really few words. But he is a man that I really respect. Please go ahead, Dave.
Thank you, Dr. Moyo, Professor Mutambara. Good evening to you all. It's a real honor to be here. It's a difficult task I have to tell any lawyer and politician that they must be short. It's almost impossible, but I will try. Arthur, I think I first met you in 2004. That is my first actual memory of meeting Arthur. He attended a critically important meeting of the NDC in Harare, where these strains were first starting to manifest themselves. Unfortunately, despite the wise input to that meeting, the council was not listened to, and as history shows, not even a year later, the NDC split, and with it were destroyed many of the hopes and aspirations of Zimbabweans. and it set back the struggle for democracy. I didn't have much more to do with Professor Mutambara until the time of the unity government, and then of course we worked together very closely during those 5 years. And I came to greatly appreciate his role in the GNU. It, of course, was a very tricky arrangement involving 3 political parties and lots of politicians with massive egos. And yet we had to stabilize the country, we had to write a new constitution, and we had to do critically important work, in my case, in education, which was in a disastrous state. And my own experience of Professor Mutambara is that he listened very closely to the issues as I described them to him and the problems. And he did all in his power to facilitate dialogue, particularly between me and Robert Mugabe. As you all know, Robert Mugabe and I had a pretty checkered history together. And so it was important that there be a person like Professor Mutambara who could be a bridge. And he was a very effective bridge in that. And so to that extent, whatever achievements we made in the education sector, this man played a critical role in that. But I want to turn to your writings, sir. And one of the things that you have stressed about writing and documentation. What is true not just about this country, but about every country on earth, is that tyrants love it when people do not write about history. Because when people don't document, when they don't write particularly contemporary history, tyrants can manufacture their own versions of events. And that's why contemporary writing like this is so critical for any nation's development. Let me use 2 examples. Just on the road here is the Bulawayo Legal Project Centre. In the early 1990s, working with others, we started work on documenting the Gukurahundi. Although the Gukurahundi had only ended some 3 years prior to the commencement of that work, I was astonished by how much information had already dissipated, how hard it was to get our hands on information. That led to intense negotiations with the Catholic bishops to get their contemporaneous documentation written by priests and Catholic workers in 1983, what they documented at the time. And that information proved to be the most critical information in establishing the truth about that portion of our history. And that is, sir, why your book is so important, because very few people have actually documented what happened in the last 10 years, what happened in the last 15 years. These books, all 3 of these books, do that task. And they provide irrefutable evidence of both the successes and the failures of that period. And so it behoves all of us to study these books so that we all learn the lessons they teach. And hopefully we can craft for ourselves a better nation in the future. And that history continues. Let me conclude with these words about, for example, what has happened in this city this week with this scandalously defective voters' roll. And thousands of people deliberately left off that voters' roll. Now, what do tyrants do in that situation? They blunder their way through it. They make the assumption that no one will document it. So that come the time when the actual rigging takes place, there's no evidence. So this task of documenting history contemporaneously has to continue. And I hope that despite the fact that you're in South Africa, that you will do that. Let me end on a humorous note. I now have 7 grandchildren, and I just started reading books to them that I perhaps read 20 years ago. One of the books I started reading in the last 2 weeks is Harry Potter by J.K. Rowling. And I think that Professor Mutambara has learned from J.K. Rowling, because if you study his books very carefully, they start small and they get progressively bigger. And so I think when he gets to volume 7 or 8, we're going to have 2,000-page books. But I hope you do that. And I wish you all the very best for this venture. I just received the book. I haven't studied it in detail, but I have absolutely no doubt that it is going to be a critically important contribution to us understanding our history. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. David Coltart was one of those fantastic ministers in the inclusive government. I can't say more. But just a quick one. One day I was very angry with Professor Mutambara. He doesn't know that I was very angry with him. But I will tell him, I will use this license as a chair. I was very, very angry with this man. Because we went to Nyanga. We had invited all cabinet ministers, all permanent secretaries, all state enterprises heads, the whole cabinet and all government. And I was chairing the meeting. So I called him to the podium to speak. He destroyed my meeting, this man. I don't know whether he covered that in his book. He destroyed my meeting. See, we had called all these guys, we wanted to put order into government. He wanted to say, this is the direction. So he says, he had barely started and said, yeah, Mugabe stole the election. Tsvangirai is the actual head of this government. And the entire ZANU-PF colleagues stood up. Honorable paper is there, he knows. They stood up and went home. And we had looked for funds from elsewhere to be there for 3 days. And they left within 3 hours of the meeting. Anyway, allow me to call Honorable Pepa Gomo. He's the former Minister of Water, the former Member of Parliament of Lord Bembula and Njube constituents, senior member of our society, a nationalist. He has worked with with the professor here. Over to you.
I'm an engineer too.
Thank you very much, Dr. Moyo, for the opportunity to say a few words. I believe I'm going to do better than David Coltart. That's the intent of time. I wish to congratulate you, my brother, Ago, because that's what they call you. And a few weeks ago, I visited Chimaliman to bury the grandmother of my daughter-in-law. And I saw a very beautiful mansion. And people there told me, that's our Mutambara's mansion. Totally in a reserve. And I admire him putting up. Yesterday I asked him, how do you maintain that? But he didn't answer that question very well. Now, I want to congratulate you for completing the 3rd volume
of your books on ideas and solutions in search of the elusive Zimbabwean dream. When we talk about this elusive dream, I'm 8 years old now, and I don't know whether that dream will be realized in my lifetime. If it is not realized, those that hear me and are alive realize the dream. Realize the Zimbabwean dream. I just want to make just 4 points very quickly. Generating ideas. Professor Mutambara has generated ideas in his books. The leader does not need to be most inventive person on the team. But as a leader, you need to release the potential for generating ideas that exist in all individuals and the teams. This will help in both achieving a vision and solutions. What am I saying? I'm saying ideas cannot come from one person. Everyone sitting in this room has got ideas. And if the leadership will succeed, they must succeed in persuading everybody to bring ideas to the table. The next point that I would like to speak to the leaders here is promoting creativity. One is to actively promote creativity by, for example, rewarding people and lowering any creative barriers and removing blockages and refusing to tolerate conceptions such as when somebody has an idea, you begin to say it will never work. Sometimes you say, if your idea was good, somebody would have done it already. Or those the equivalents, the two examples I've given. Now, also recognizing consensus can be the enemy of creativity. We just want to agree, and because you want to agree, you are saying, you are pushing people to agree, and you are killing creativity in individuals. I am trying to speak to my leaders here about this kind of thing. Now, if a creative idea is proposed to us, we must always consider it. Now, there's another thing that my leaders here today, including Professor Mutambara, need to do: stimulating ideas. As I have said already, there are many people sitting in this room with ideas. If you wait for ideas to come, they probably will not come. I propose that an ideas meeting be called. But most of those who would attend such a meeting would be relatively young. To prevent such a happening, one must insist on 2 rules. First, everybody coming to the ideas meeting must come to the meeting with 2 or 3 new ideas, which can be as far-fetched as they like. That means to say a dream that may not even come to pass. I'm not talking about animal farm. Now, secondly, nobody should be allowed to shoot ideas down in flames. Because the reason we have these problems in our country, we believe that others own ideas. And then we begin to shoot down some other people's ideas. I think that it is important not to shoot down other people's ideas or rubbish them before they are discussed. The important issue is to get ideas on the table and to encourage all to believe in their own powers of idea generation. All of us, I believe. The last point that I want just to put to the leaders, Professor Mutambara included. Professor Mutambara is putting ideas on the table. Let an ideas meeting be called to discuss these ideas and the other ideas that will be brought to the table by other participants. Otherwise, Mutambara's ideas would simply die in the covers of those books. Terms of payment. Subalini policy, the issue is closed. Now, and the Zimbabwean dream, that's elusive, would really be elusive indeed. I am trying to write a book. I am trying, and Professor Mutambara keeps phoning me. How far is the book? The reason I want to write this book is because of the 14 years I spent in prison, in Rhodesian prisons. No one has ever recorded anything that happened inside. I am trying to do that. And I realize that in the many years I spent in prison, very few people now exist who were my fellow prisoners, fellow detainees. And if I can count them to 5, I'll be very lucky. Others, many of them have passed away. And I'm glad that when I spoke to him, he said, when you finish, talk to me. I will hold him to that. He must do something about this book because it's of national interest as to what was happening. I have too many stories. Some people died in prison, and some were really killed. And I remember one died here in this prison here, Grace prison. Somebody died there. When I and Stephen Omo were just looking at him, he was kicked and died. There are so many things that we need to tell. Abraham Lincoln, the 16th president of the United States of America, once said, and I quote, the best way to predict the future is to create it. Let us join the train of ideas to realize the Zimbabwean dream.
Very few people know actually that he was imprisoned, detained for almost 14 years. If Paul Tebanyat was here, he was going to tell you because they spent together most part of those years. Now I would like to call somebody who also worked with Professor Mutambara in the same office, and she is here. She is going to give very brief, remarks as she comes. That is Adelis Buta. As she comes, I want to tell you that Professor Mutambara once did something to me, very painful actually. He brought some painful news. After a meeting with Mugabe and the Prime Minister, he came and told me a secret. and said, guess what, Moyo, you have been reshuffled. I was reshuffled. I want to tell you the reasons. We discussed the reasons, and I accepted. Dennis Subuta was principal director in the Deputy Prime Minister's office under Dr. Tozani Group. Thank you, over to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. All protocols observed. I want to start by expressing my sincere gratitude for the privilege to air my short remarks on this book. As you have already alluded to the fact that I served in the Deputy Prime Minister's office, I had the privilege to see and interact Honorable Professor Mutambara almost on a daily basis. And I remember on one or two occasions when he threw a tantrum due to some problematic travel arrangements. But generally speaking, he was a professional when he was dealing with us, the subordinates. Program Director, I know you've asked me to say a few remarks, but I'd written something, so I'll quickly read through. Let me take this opportunity and congratulate Honorable Professor Mutambara for yet another thought-provoking publication. As a nation, our pre-independence and post-colonial era is characterized by a yearning for freedom and democracy, a yearning for peace, stability, equality, inclusion, as well as that for economic growth, development, and prosperity. This dream has eluded Zimbabwe for a very, very long time. For 43 years after gaining black majority rule, which in recent years has turned into black minority rule, the dream for equal access to opportunities, good healthcare systems, improved infrastructure development, and access to justice still remains elusive. It's a dream still in the pipeline for the majority of the people. Instead of moving from poverty to prosperity as a nation, we seem to be moving from prosperity to poverty. According to the World Bank reports, Zimbabwe is classified as a fragile country, though not at war. And to support that notion, recently Dr. Steve Eng's Misery Index analyzed 157 countries, and Zimbabwe topped the list. The list of the most miserable country in the world. We've topped the list for 3 straight years. The Misery Index is an economic measure that is based on the rate of unemployment, economic unemployment, inflation, bank lending rate, and real growth domestic product. We also top the corruption index, and cases like the Al Jazeera, which already Professor Mutambara has alluded to, make us a laughing stock in global politics and economics. The former United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon once said, and I quote, "Corruption is measured not just in billions of dollars of squandered or stolen government resources, but most importantly, in the access of the hospitals, schools, clean water, roads, and bridges that would have changed families and communities. Corruption has increased poverty among the vulnerable groups. Our justice system is another sticking point, another sticking issue. We have a very compromised, if not catered, justice system. And yesterday's passing of laws that punish the so-called unpatriotic Zimbabwean citizens that was passed in Parliament through the Criminal Law Codification and Reform Amendment Bill is another act of oppression on the people of Zimbabwe. Today, we are ashamed of the condition of our city, a city that was once a shining beacon for Africa, that is the seat of kings and queens. A city that won many accolades in the past has been turned into chaotic fuel and rendered ungovernable by a few selfish and self-centered individuals interfering with local authorities' efforts in the management of the city. Ladies and gentlemen, in all this, it is us women, the youth and children who suffer most. Professor Mutambara has coined a new word, which is in his book, womenomics, a term that explains the economy as an experience driven and influenced by women. And as they say, when elephants fight, it is the grass that suffers. The current socio-economic and political landscape is very hostile for women and youth. Women and the youth are experiencing a very miserable life that is stifled by non-inclusive economic policies that still leave out the majority of the people to wallow in abject poverty. As a nation, we need to move from podiums to taking action to improve our human dignity and turn our misery into happiness. No one will turn this around for us. We have ourselves and perhaps a few sympathizers outside. Unfortunately, we are so divided as a nation on many fronts, such as tribe, class, race, gender, educated or uneducated, such that the corrupt system finds it easy to oppress and violate our basic human rights. Churches too are divided. The civil society organizations do not speak with one voice. Ladies and gentlemen, a clueless leadership makes the followers appear clueless. Some even argue that we have no nation to talk about. The majority, Professor Mutambara talks about a national vision, but some people argue that perhaps we don't have a nation to talk about. The majority of the people are broken and broke. We lack self-pride to the extent that we have normalized the abnormal. Degreed young people have been turned into hustlers by their grandfathers and mothers who refuse to relinquish power. In conclusion, the Bible in Proverbs 29 verse 18 teaches us that where there is no vision, the people perish. But he that keepeth the law, happy is he. Ladies and gentlemen, the elections are looming just around the corner. Let us, in a bid to serve this country, for this generation and for posterity, participate in the harmonized election in August and elect new great leaders. Leaders with a vision to stop lawlessness and chaos. We need to elect God-fearing leadership, servant leadership, and transformational leadership that will restore Zimbabwe to a yesterday glory. This is what Professor Mutambara in his book, In Search for the Elusive Zimbabwean Dream, calls us to do. Let us bear in mind, as in the words of Kill Ellison, not voting is not a protest, it is a surrender. George Cullen, if you don't vote, you lose the right to complain. Reverend Raphael Warren, a vote is a kind of prayer about the kind of world you want to live in. Please go and take your names in the voters' roll. Make sure you know which polling station you exercise your right to vote from. There seems to be quite a number of anomalies. And thank you for this opportunity. And once again, I want to congratulate Professor for the great work. You are such an inspiration to so many of us who still want to do at least one case.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you very much. You spoke like a politician today. I was expecting a bureaucrat, but she spoke like a politician. I'm wondering whether she's aspiring to the one. And ladies and gentlemen, because of time, if he had a written speech like Sibota, I allowed Scooter because she went with him to read. But the ladies and gentlemen that are there, I know these are they know what to do. They know how to summarize. So if you have a paper, I hope you will summarize. And we'll start with the Dean of the Faculty of Commerce at the University of NAS, National University of Science and Technology. This man is my dean, you know. He is my dean because he happens to be the dean of the Faculty of Commerce, and I happen to be the first PhD graduate from his faculty. So I respect him. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, Director of Ceremony. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. All, first of all, observed. I'll start by saying I wanted to have a detailed, presentation for this particular gathering. But thanks to the electricity that went, so I had to write this very quickly by hand. And I guess Prof. Mutambara is also addressing this in his book, the energy shortage that is affecting us as a country. So it is an honor, ladies and gentlemen, to be part of this gathering, where we are here to listen to the launch or to witness the launch of a book, Volume 3, by Professor Adam Mutambara, the son of the soil. I think all of us know Professor Mutambara and the contribution he has made to academia and politics in this country. Prof, I like the way you have, defined the different epochs in the book that we are launching. You talk about 1983 to 2000, 2002 to 2009, then 2009 to present. So as you made those presentations, I was asking myself, so does it mean 2022, or after the election, that's when we are going to expect your volume 4? But in your presentation, you have already answered that. And most of us here, I'm sure we are very, very aware of the different periods that he talks about in his presentations. By the way, I happen to have been born the same year as you, Prof. So I witnessed the pre-independence era, also as a boy. And from there I witnessed the independence, the Gograwundi. I have a story to tell about Gograwundi, but that's for another time. The liberalization period, ISA and so forth, the collapse of the economy, 1997, or let me say the start of the collapse of the economy in 1997. Then the GNU and the new dispensation. So when I came to that, Prof. Mutambara makes it very interesting to us. We've been talking new dispensation, but he tells us that there's nothing like the new dispensation. Nothing changed. He says it was a matter of removing one leadership and putting other people, but the system continued. So what I find interesting about this particular book is that it is not focusing just on the problems, but there is so much emphasis on the solution. And the emphasis that it puts on documentation as well as history. Now, Prof. Mutambara, looking at your background and coming to this launch, if one didn't know, they would expect a book full of figures, equations, and so forth. But it's very interesting, the dimension that you have taken, documenting history and all that. And what I find interesting as well is the dimension you bring about the liberation struggle in this country. Because there is a lot that we academics need to do there. We know how that part of our history has been told. I like what the Center for Innovation and Technology, I hope I called it, I pronounced it well, are doing. Documenting history, trying to make corrections of the history of liberty struggling of this country. So, the book should actually trigger solutions on all these issues that we have had Prof. Mutambara talk about. The conversations that he has had with the former president are also very interesting. And if we look closely at what he says in those conversations, perhaps we can have a lot of answers and a lot of solutions to what we have been denied to get the truth about over the years. Thanks to the book, Prof. Mutambara, you argue that it is critical at this time where we have no political reforms that have taken place, no changes that have happened since 2017, no new dispensation, as you say, no second republic, and the way the elections have been conducted over the years. You also mentioned, by the way, I've been following you on the internet. When I'm in my office, I take my time to listen to your videos. You've got so many of them on the internet, and they're very inspiring. So, Prof, should your volume 4 be talking about beyond the elections in 2023? But from what you've just said today, it will be more than that. And part of it is the biography that you have just told us about. And being a product of an education system that is so much criticized, today, one wonders how, Prof, you managed to distance yourself, get out of the crowd that went through that education system and achieve all these things in the short space of time that we have managed to achieve them. I hope it's clear what I'm saying. So much has been said about the education system of labeling instincts and not teaching people about entrepreneurship and so on and so forth. But that education system has also produced the likes of Professor Mutambara. So, which means he stands out in the crowd as being in his own league. I like your views about Pan-Africanism, where you are looking at things not just from a micro perspective, but you are looking at them at a very high level to say, using that approach of Ubuntu, that we can achieve more by recognizing the power that we have in working together and recognizing how we can actually work together for the common good, not of the country, but of the continent as well. Not of the continent only, but of the global world, as it were. And we also emphasize the issue of understanding, national issues beyond party politics. I think there is a lot that we academics need to discern from them. You talk about Mugabeism, which is a value system that maybe a lot of young people that have grown in this country in the last 40 years may find it difficult to actually get out of. He emphasizes that even with the opposition, it may be important for them to realize that there is that danger. And finally, Prof, let me congratulate you on the sterling work that you're doing. I know there is still a lot that we are going to be reading from you. Congratulations on this lodge, Prof. Thank
you. Thank you, Doc. Thank you. For those that are to speak, if you could take half the time that was taken by Dr. Ngala, I will really appreciate. I still want to give the rest of the people here space to engage, to raise issues. So if you could try your best. Now can I call on to the podium Anastasia Moyo. Anastasia Moyo is, I know her as a civil society activist, an administrator, a very passionate individual about the issues of this region, about the issues of our country. I know she will speak to half of the time. Thank you.
Good evening. All protocols observed. Trust that I shall stick to exactly what you are saying. I am his product in civil society. I have done a lot of work. I've been introduced to a lot of issues that revolve around civic society activities. That's why I'm saying I will stick to what he is saying. First of all, I wish to say I have known Professor Mutambara as an academic when I was still in the classroom as a teacher. When I passed through high school, the way that I knew him was he was one of those people that were intelligent. If you ask some people that have been through high school, quite a lot of them, I think over 90% could have known that he studied robotics. Up to now, I still do not know what it is, but I know that it is in one of the areas that he studied. And tonight, actually, we are gracing the occasion when he is launching a book. I did literature myself at high school. I was very intelligent. I valued literature a lot because from my past experience of doing literature, I came to realize as an adult that literature is a reflection of society. And from the book that he presents to us, it has done exactly that. It has covered a number of ideas. My mentor, Cotton Moyo, is an advocate of the belief and the saying and the preaching that ideas run this world. And so, with a publication that proffers ideas and solutions from one of the intelligent sons of Zimbabwe, I think we are doing justice to this country. My belief is that once this book is read by the majority of the people in Zimbabwe, we are bound to learn. We are bound to interact with him in a number of ways. I wish to congratulate Professor for this book. Dr. Pottenmoy used to say the richest place in any society in the world is a cemetery, because people die with their ideas. He hasn't died with their ideas, and because of that, we value that interaction, that those are shared. I also value, by the way, that Professor is an extrovert. He's the kind of person who will say what comes into his mind. So it is another angle of life that the young generation can emulate, so that when they interact with the world, they are able to express their ideas freely. My only concern, however, is not directly with him, but directly with the society in Zimbabwe, where there is a deliberate effort to stifle ideas that revolve around political reform. There is a lot that is happening, and I am also worried by the fact that if I look at the books he has shown, they are moving from the small books to big books. I'm not sure whether there is the reading culture that we have in Zimbabwe that will compel the people to continue to read the volumes as they get bigger and bigger. Currently, I am in a setup where I work with the teenagers, high school students, and there is a deliberate ignoring of the high school students in issues that are to do with governance issues. The literature books that are written are big, and those young boys and girls have very little time to read these books. They have a lot of time on WhatsApp, on the social media and the like. How are we going to interact with them so that they become responsible citizens who are able to share ideas, who are able to value ideas and interact with them like I have done when I went through literature, when I learned literature, the Chinua Achebes, the Ngugi wa Thiong'os. When you talk of the Animal Farm, I begin to brighten up because it is a work of somebody who was reflecting on society and is focusing on what is to happen. In conclusion, I am placing him as our own Chinua Achebe, our own Alan Patton, our Zimbabwean, whom we are proud of, whom we should be proud of. We will ever be proud of such works of a great man. Thank you for getting us into the limelight as Zimbabwe. I thank you.
Thank you, Anastasia. Thank you so much. Can I now call upon a permanent in Goma? Permanent is another civil society activist, and she is actually the coordinator of Bulawayo Progressive Residents Association, which is the residents association for the rest of Bulawayo. And because of that, I know she will take 1/5 of the time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Prof, for giving me this opportunity to share my reviews on the book. And one interesting thing that you mentioned is that you started writing when you were in 1983. That's the year that I was born. So for me, the book just narrates my whole life, what I've experienced as a Zimbabwean child. And going through the volumes of the books are thought-provoking, especially for us young people. I feel we are a generation of people who are very individualistic, people who don't think about collective solutions or collective ideas. We are content, or we are okay with coming up with our own individual solutions that really don't contribute to the development of the nation or the development of the country. One maybe example that I'll give is that we have normalized things that are not supposed to be normal. We've normalized buying water. We've normalized buying electricity cables that are not supposed to be buying. And I think as a young person, I speak for the young people that are here to say, going through these volumes, it will make us to really sit down and to think about the collective solutions that we can come up with as a nation and stop being individualistic and learn from the ideas that we're getting from Professor. Thank you so much. I did try to speak to the time.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Permanent. Now I shall call upon Dr. Favorite Sedele Mbofu. She's a lecturer at the National University of Science and Technology, back to the academics. And she knows she's a numbers person. So because she's a numbers person, she does numbers. So it won't be a problem. Time won't be a problem.
Evening, everyone. I would like to start by congratulating Professor Mutambara on the launch of the thought-provoking and inspiring book. When he spoke to me on the invitation, I'm sure I told him that I'm a very reserved person. I'm an introvert. But Dr. William is trying to get out of the shell. I am not the speaking type, I'm the writing type, like he said. I work with numbers. When I read his abstract, there's a paragraph that stood out for me, which basically summarized the challenges that are faced by Zimbabweans. What stood out for me was the reference to a collapsed healthcare system, unrelenting poverty, severe food insecurity, loss of livelihoods, and the dramatic shrinking democratic space. In my mind also came issues of the exchange rate instability, high rates of unemployment, soaring inflation, low economic growth, and the performance challenges faced by the formal businesses and the compromised education system. I then asked myself to say, is this the new dispensation that we're looking at? We were looking at a new dispensation that would lead to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. When we look at SDG 1, we say we want to eradicate poverty. When we look at SDG 2, we are saying eradication of hunger. When we look at 3, we are saying quality health. When we look at 4, we are saying quality education. And when we go to 5, we say gender equality. We want to address gender inequality. So I asked myself to say, how then are we going to address these issues? And what came to my mind was, for me as a tax person, what came to my mind was revenue mobilization, to say, how then do we mobilize the revenues to ensure the achievement of these goals? But I then thought of the Al Jazeera document to say illicit financial flows A certain conference that I attended, they actually projected that through illicit financial flows, we actually lost around 32 billion US dollars in the last 2 decades. So basically, how then do we achieve these SDGs? And I thought of tax collection to say, with tax collection, governance quality and tax collection are interlinked. With citizens who see a structured social contract, who will be willing to pay? Because my understanding of taxation is taxation with representation. When I look at the tax policy issues, for example, the statutory instruments that come out, I hear an outcry from civil society, an outcry from businesses, an outcry from industrial comments. So is this taxation with representation? Who then would have been consulted if every one of us who is affected by those policies is crying out? How then are we going to mobilize the revenues? I then thought perhaps the summary by Prof that says taxation without representation is tyranny is basically what is happening to us. And also recently I heard that we want to actually mobilize revenue from the diasporians. We want to collect tax. We are saying we are going to work on a migration framework. But what then comes to my mind is, are we going to give them the right to vote? Taxation without representation is tyranny. So for me, your book brought me to say governance quality and economic growth are interlinked. There is no new dispensation as long as we speak of poor governance, corruption, poor institutional frameworks. There is no way we are then going to mobilize revenue. And I also liked the summary of the fourth industrial revolution technologies, your blockchains, your big data. How do we finance those if we are not able to mobilize revenue? For me, that's what stood out for me from that book, governance quality and institutional quality as pillars for effective economic growth, effective revenue mobilization. With that, Prof, I want to congratulate you on your book. Thank you for taking me out of my shed.
Thank you. Well done, Doc. Person of numbers, well done, well done. We are now towards the end. But before I call upon the professor, who is going to give us the last word, there is a young man who reminds us of Mutambara during his heydays. He behaves the same way, he speaks the same way, the energy is the same, the articulation is the same. I think we need to give him that space. Please listen to the young man, just to remind us of our professor during his heydays. The young man is Ostaros Esiziwa. Please come over. Young men keep time. We know young men keep time.
Thank you very much, Director of Ceremony. All protocol observed. Let me apologize by coming late. You know that we're in the verge of an election, and we are in the city. I think that is not a coincidence, Prof, that you launched this book just a few hours before we make a decision as a movement to elect representatives. We are going to be giving them this kind of a platform to present how they intend to change the lives of ordinary people here in Bulawayo. I've just got a report from our security department that some of my good friends have been vetted out because, you know, this struggle has taken too long. So we are dealing with sellers and the nincompoops in our midst. Three things that I'm going to speak about. Business will put our things in threes as triple C. So first, I think that this book is a reminder to us as young people that this country is not short of ideas, but it is in short of leadership. the greatest challenge that we face 43 years after independence is the deficit of stewardship and leadership. The ability to change the lives of ordinary people. If we listen to Doc, you know, when she talks about, text without representation, when we look at Dr. paper, historical narrative, and Prof's fourth industrial revolution, you realize that we've got the necessary people with the capacity to change the lives of ordinary people. But what we don't have is the leadership in this country. That's why the question on this election gives us an opportunity to resolve the leadership question so that we are able to set a new path for our country. Number two is the story of our people. You know, when you hear our colleagues in the other side speaking, about people like Professor Mutambara and others here, you would think that they are not patriotic people. You would think that they don't believe in Pan-Africanism. But when you hear them speak, you realize that we all love our country, but we are ashamed of our government. And this government, which has a creeping sense of entitlement and a culture of impunity, has presented an image that if you are ashamed of your government, you are unpatriotic. We love our country. We expect better from those who have elected into leadership, but we are ashamed of the present, hoping that this book helps our own generation. We started reading Prof. Mutambara at the Students' Union at the UZ about the October 4, a date that we celebrated until we left the UZ. One of our expectations as the leadership then was that we must revive the October 4. That's why a few months before we left the UZ, we had a huge demonstration because they inspired us. So I'm talking this because of the issue of documentation. When they fought against one-party state, when they fought against the assassination of Samora Machel, that our struggle in Zimbabwe is not sufficient without complementing the struggles of the people in other parts of the African continent. That level of class consciousness is what inspired us. Lastly, I want to obviously speak about the need to finish our struggle. This book for us is a reminder that this struggle for democracy has taken too long. 2 decades of naked contact with danger and repression from those who have become entitled because of participating in the liberation struggle. For me, this book, and for us as a movement, is a reminder that we must finish this struggle. We must finish what was started in September 1999. Having a democracy in our country is a prerequisite if we are to be able to resolve the challenges in the economy. If we don't do politics, politics will do us. What we see by this Professor Mtuli's neoliberal economic policies that have troubled our people is because it is the politics stupid. The challenges are not on the economy. We must fix the politics. So for me, and for our own generation, we must fix the politics in this country so that we resolve the challenges that we are facing. Hunger doesn't care which party you belong to, doesn't care which church you go to. It affects everyone. The majority of my compatriots, 97% of them wake up at the blessing of an empty stomach and a jobless existence. It doesn't matter whether they are putting on a scarf or not. Hunger knocks at their doors every day. So it's a reminder for me as a young person and for my own generation that Franz Fanon told us that every generation must, out of relative obscurity, discover its mission, fulfill it or betray. That's why, Professor, with that book, we are prepared to surrender ourselves before we surrender this democratic struggle. I thank you.
Thank you. You saw the energy. That's what Mutambara was. And thanks, Ostaros, for the short message. And finally, before we get to the rest of the attendees, we have a Professor Emeritus, a senior professor amongst us, Professor Renford Kumalo. He has known it all. He has been to the world. So he is going to really summarize And I happen to have had a very close relationship. Right now, he's one of the board members of our public institute, and he was one of the what do we call it, the members of the academic board during my time as a PhD student or candidate. So, Prof. Kumaro, over to you. We know you will summarize.
I promise I will. We are here celebrating the launch of a book whose author, the author, we know that the author very well has been introduced to us. Prof. Mutambara is a Pan-Africanist, a local, an academic. Firstly, I met him at UNISA when he was teaching, lecturing the project management in our master's business leadership. He was the student called him the Prof. You see, when we are at university, students call you all sorts of names. They call him the Prof. The Prof. So we find that this book that he has written is very, very informative. Actually, it is informed by the various roles that he has played as a politician, as an academic, an engineer, and so on and so on. So we found that, remember, the time when he was about to join active politics here, when he received the invitation, he was at UNISA. Remember, he came to my office, Prof. came to my office to discuss about this invitation to come and join active politics. I can't remember the exact words that I said to him, but all I know is that I encouraged him. And then he came here, being a prime minister, deputy prime minister. We find that this book is well informed. It's informed of the roles he has played in society. And as I looked at the title, I could more or less know what the focus was all about. Because as academics, we read and examine a lot of theses. Through that, we can even tell from the title that the focus is going to be this. Prof, we are very thankful, we are happy for this book that is going to influence many young people. For example, there is this is a project. The name what we did at university, they are doing the same. And we also are challenged. I like the idea of saying when we have to provide solutions to the problems. We can't criticize only and stop there. We have to provide solutions, and then there's a crop of leaders who are going to realize that, and then they get these ideas, because they thought that there are many who are in positions who don't have ideas, but those who have ideas don't have positions. Eventually, there's going to be a crop of leaders who shall keep on knocking, providing solutions, and then eventually they will know what to do when they lead people. Thank you, Prof, for this book. I congratulate you. And this is thought-provoking. It challenges us all to document our history, current history, and do things that way. Thank you, Prof.
Well done, Prof. You kept time. Now I shall open to the House. Before I do that, just to remind you, the books are available. They are available at the back at the end of this session. Those that would like to buy the books, they are there, and they are at a discounted rate. So it's the best night to buy the book tonight. And also, please don't leave. There is need for interaction after this. Let's interact, engage, and infect each other with ideas. And let's turn this into a market of ideas as we interact. So don't leave, because also you have some refreshments. So as we enjoy the refreshments, we exchange ideas. But now over to you. Anyone with an observation, a comment, a quick question. But please, no history, no narrations, so that we give each other time to engage. I see the head there. You are free to speak, but it is always nice to say your name. But if you are comfortable, don't say it. If you are comfortable, you can tell us who you are and ask a question or make your observation. I want to sit down. The minute I raise this thing, I will be saying, please sit this time. Thank you.
Privilege, and there's no need for self-introduction because the professor knows me. My question is, if the professor said I'm a kid, but not to disclose my identity. My question is, it is really a good night of ideas and solutions. And as you've heard, that the learned professor said that he was asked by the American leadership one time to go back to Africa, to his native country. And we've also heard from the professor, from the doctor, that he destroyed the meeting in Nyanga. Isn't there a missing section, therefore, in this book of the missing dream where the professor missed it? I thank
you. Thank you. I shall not speak. There is another hand there, back. That one.
My name is Boso Siso. I would like to ask a question that happened during the GNU when the professor, sorry, I'm not trying to be rude or something, but it's a question. Right. When the professor was not voted for in a Congress, in a party where he was the president, and Welshman Mube was voted into that Congress. And at that time, the professor had to step aside and pave way for Welshman Mube to be the deputy prime minister. But that did not happen to the extent that they ended up in no good books. That's my question. I would like the professor to explain why that happened.
Thank you, sir. By the way, there are no bars involved. So there is no uncomfortable question to an academic. So whatever question, don't feel you will be embarrassed. He's an academic. He must respond to questions. Yes, sir.
Thank you. My name is Darlington Tutura. I just want to touch on two issues. The first one is the professor, you spoke about let's have ideas. Those that have ideas and solutions don't have the influence and the power, right? Now, you have written and you are putting out your ideas and your solutions. But can we see you having podcasts, right, in which you invite members of society? I've noted that here we've got politicians here, for members of the civil society here, so that these ideas and those with influence and power can be forced to interact more. The books are lovely, yes, but we love to have the interaction where we can say, but councillor, what have you done for our city? Right? I actually wonder if there are any MPs here right now, or if there are any those who represent the city, are they here? Because we need to have these interactions if we are to have a better future. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, madam. Oh, that's Dr. Maviza.
Thank you so much, Doc. Mine is a quick one. I think it builds on to what the previous speaker said and what Anastasia said. When you started speaking, the first thing that came to mind was the politics of knowledge production. Now, we have a wonderful volume that you've presented for the audience that can read and probably have access to the book. But what is the strategy beyond the volume so that we can reach the masses and send the message to the people that matter? I just recently shifted domains. I was in academia. I'm still an academic, but I'm now in research for development. Now that we have the knowledge and all that you're sharing with us in the volume, how do we make sure that my grandmother in the Cholocho area there understands what is in the volume and then begins to act in a manner that is going to help her search for the elusive dream and probably get it at some point. So the question is, what is the research uptake strategy or the sharing of knowledge strategy that you have in place to go beyond those who can be at Bulawayo Club to probably the most remote areas of our land so that we can achieve what we want to achieve at the end? Thank you.
Thank you, Doc, and congratulations for your shift in the space. We wish you the best in your new assignment. Can I take the last three? Those will be the last ones and we are closing. You will then respond and we are done. There is a gentleman that is standing, the one standing with the white shirt. With the white shirt.
Mina ngiyabonga kakhulu bana kufike lapha ngoba Mutambara incwadi yakhe yokuqala ngayithenga and ngayifunda ngiyamazisa Mutambara. I've been following umlandela esase-UZ ngo-1988 waye-Oxford waya ngupresident we-SRC e-Oxford. Ngiyayazi history kaMutambara. Ngiyabonga mbaba Mutambara. Incwadi yakho siwethenga. Now mina okumangazayo ngaleli lizwe abantu bakithi ukuthi sifundile impela ukufunda sifundile kodwa siyahluleka manje ukuthi sizibonise njengabantu abafundileyo. Ma sihlezi namhlanje etown edolobheni lapha kubulawa lamanzi ayinjeni ukuthi ukufunda kwethu kuyini ma sisehluleka ukubana silungise into ezilule ezifana lezi. Kuyamangaza kakhulu ngoba ngizama ukuthi ngiqhathanise imfundo yethu ne-development ukuthuthuka kodwa awukhani ngekuthi ama-degrees and degrees kodwa ukhani into esiyenzayo. Angazi ukuthi impela yangizwa yini. I-degree lisho umuntu ofundileyo. Idorobho lethu ngasi sikwele emakhaya manje sifika sidla kamnandi abantu basibona emazweni ukuthi amaZimbabwe afundile angamadorobho la ungaze eZimbabwe kuthiwa kuzinto zezinhle kodwa sifundile silamaphepha sibili akhona kuthiwa ngama-degrees kodwa idorobho liyanuka kuhambelana ngalo yona. Ngiyabonga. Asike sike sibhekene imfundo yethu ngoba mina manje ngaba se-South Africa kwesikhathi esiningi bengisehluleka ukuthi ngikhulume phakathi kwabantu ukuthi ngivele eZimbabwe ngoba ma uvula umlomo uthi uvele eZimbabwe ahleka.
Siyabonga. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. I had given a gentleman by the end. Yeah, yourself.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. My name is Wilson Kwanaz. I've got one question for you, Prof. You highlighted the Al Jazeera case as one of the cases of corruption. But the question is, when you're in government, were you not seeing that corruption? Because when you look at the Al Jazeera, it seems like this corruption started a long back way ago. So when you were Deputy Prime Minister, did you not see the corruption happening, or you are speaking because you are now out of power? I thank you very much.
Siyabonga. Is there a lady raising her hand or a young person? Is that a young person? Okay, if you define yourself as youth, please speak.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Ferguson Swangirai, and I would like to say thank you for recognizing the youth. I just wanted to say, Professor, thank you. Thank you for keeping on writing books. I'm an author as well. I wrote my first book and I published it last month. I know it's very difficult as an author to move from book A to book B to book C and continuing. I just want to say thank you and for what you did in the GNU. Thank you so much, Professor. As a young man, I decided to speak as a young man, not to venture into academics a lot, but thank you.
So, is there a lady, no lady,
So you have your hand up, you are the last one. After that, we are closing the session.
Okay, thank you, Doc. Ngulule Mosbanda is my name. Just out of keen interest, Prof. Mutambara, the politicians always speak about catch them young, but what we're seeing now is a regression of back to the old guard in terms of your political players. How do you generate interest in present day youth to be able to be in the boxing ring and be able to determine the destiny of their future and the destiny of Zimbabwe? Thank you.
Thank you. Before I give the mic back to the Prof, there is a guy who asked the very first question. The question was not very clear. If you could if you could just restate the question and not the comments, not the history, the folklore around it, but the question itself. Please give him the mic.
I believe the professor could have highlighted where he may have gone wrong in the elusive dream. Thank you, Doctor.
Okay, now very specific. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you very much for those questions. I'll try to respond. Okay. Thank you very much. I'll try to cover all the questions, and some of them I'll combine them. What could I have done wrong? Where could I have gone wrong? In the inclusive government, we failed to deliver political reforms. So we are where we are today because of the failure of the GNU to deliver political reforms. So that's one definite thing. We're very successful on the constitution, we're very successful on the economy. Let's talk about it now. We're so committed to a fault. These other guys are like, let these schools run the economy, or we have to dump them. And they did dump us in 2018 and they continue their own. So we're naive in a way as ministers in the inclusive government. In writing the book, I think if I made any errors, it come from the reviewers. And I don't possess all the wisdom. I just presented my part of the ideas, my part of the solutions. So no one has monopoly of wisdom, but that should not stop you from sharing your ideas. Just be confident in your ideas. Wolfgang Lubbe in DPM, I answered that very eloquently in my book. It was an ugly chapter in our party, ugly chapter, but I'm not going to preempt my very good book and tell you my story. Buy my book. You understand what happened between Mutambara and Wolfgang? What was the basis of the disagreements? How were they resolved? It's they want it all. I don't pull any punches. I'm very clear. But I'm not going to tell you here and submit my book. Go read it, then we discuss. But I answer all those things in the book. Podcast is very good idea. We must have interactive platforms where we share ideas and then with questions. And so I like the idea of a podcast. I like the idea of an interactive platform where we actually interrogate ideas and learn from each other. So I take that as advice. Knowledge production is very tough. How do we get this book to everyone? How do we get published? I mean, many people say, I'm going to put my book out. It's not very easy to publish. If you are first paper, once you finish, come and talk. The politics of book production, the politics of knowledge production is very tough. In Europe and America, they are very good. they give you an advance payment. You know, Obama has given 3 million, Michelle, then they write after they pay. No one is paying us to write. We're not being motivated to write. Whereas in Europe, in America, they understand the importance of knowledge production. So they actually incentivize their leaders, their business people, their academics to write. We don't yet. And so it's a tough call, and I said with Steph, let's talk when you're ready, because I know a bit of it now. I've got 5 books there. I'm working on my 6th one, and then the 7th one. So I know a bit about the area. The idea then will be to convert this into local languages and into small bits, and also into videos and audios. Young people have a short attention span. We can break it down into sections, depending on what is relevant. So it's a tough one to make sure knowledge produced is accessible, but it can be done. We should never give up, but we must also have a business model around books. Because the public has to get their money back. So we must find a way of having it. That's why I will tell you about my secrets about what will move me, because I want you to pay for those secrets, so that you can pay for the knowledge products. Knowledge and education, there's no link between our degrees and development. First point, we must allow some of our best minds run countries. You allow dimwits, people without capacity running countries. A good example is China. When you look at China, they call it the Standing Committee of the Politburo. 9 men, they should be women as well, but those 9 men, they should be women, but 9 men. If you look at their qualifications, they're engineers, they're doctors. China, without democracy, allows their best minds to run China. So you see the Chinese story. Yes, there's an issue of numbers, but their degrees, their education is linked to development. They allow their Xi Jinping, that engineer, he's got a photographic memory. He's a smart guy. You might say he's a dictator, he's taking big term, but he's a smart one. So I share your concern that there must be a link between our education and development. We can't just have these degrees and have no development. But as a society, you are going to vote. Who are you voting for? Are you voting for people with capacity? Are you voting for people who can make a difference? In both the ruling party and the opposition. So it's important that somehow we allow our best minds to run councils, to run cities, to run the national government. But more importantly, what kind of education are we giving ourselves? We must now realize that we are in a period where we say, what skills do you have? What are your capabilities? It's no longer enough to say, I have a BA degree, I have an MBA degree, I have a PhD. No, show me what you can do. What skills do you have? What are your capabilities? In the 4th Industrial Revolution, it is important that we give our young people skills and capabilities that are required by industry. There's always a mismatch. You produce a degree over here in the academy, but industry is looking for something different. So we need to have a tripartite arrangement between academia, industry, and government, so that the academy is addressing the needs of industry. And the key issue is skills and capabilities to do work. Show me what you can do. Don't show me your little degree, your little PhD, your little MBA. I'm not interested. Demonstrate capacity. But most significantly, why are we not producing entrepreneurs? We must not all be workers. We must create young people who are going to create businesses, create jobs, create technology. Entrepreneurship should be part of the curriculum at all level, at A level, in every degree program. So when you are done, you don't say, I've got a PhD, can I get a job? You say, I've got a PhD, I've got a BA, I want to create a business. I want to start my own company. I had a conversation with Bill Gates at Davos. I said, Bill Gates, I read your story. You dropped out of Harvard when you were studying physics and you dropped dropped out and you went out to form this company. How could you do that? If I did that in my village, the entire village will stone me. Mutambara, how come you drop out of Harvard without finishing the degree? You know what he said to me? He said, no, it was not that risky. When I was in my second year doing physics at Harvard, I had a good idea. And my professor said, no, Bill, go away, go and form your company, go and do your business. If you run into trouble, come back. We'll continue with you with your degree program. I was like, I never heard of that. In my country, if I drop out the chest, go away, discontinue, withdraw. Here in America, it's a system of credits. You can take your degree in 3 years, in 10 years, in 15 years. So Bill Gates was given an opportunity to go and come back if necessary. Now if you say at last, if you drop out, they don't want to see you again. It's like a you say we've withdrawn, discontinue. We must have flexibility where we allow our best minds, the top student in maths, the top student in medicine must allow to drop out and go to a company. Bill Gates now employs more graduates than all graduates are going to Harvard. So we need to have a degree. He's a dropout, but he's ready. Steve Jobs is sorry. So we must be flexible in our educational system to allow some of our best minds to drop out and go and form companies. The English system is very constrained. The Americans are more flexible. So emphasis is that education must lead to development. Number one, allow our best minds to play a role. Number two, change the curriculum. Number three, education must be a means to an end, not an end in itself. Al Jazeera and the issue. Well, I think there was corruption during our state government, but at least it was a team of rivals. So the Zan guys have been very careful, and we were mitigating. It was Minister of Finance, I was the principal, parastatals, so we were controlling it. There was still corruption, engine and all that. But after we left, it became free for all. And you look at gold mafia is moving outside of 2018, not for 2018. We were in office all night 2018. Yes, there was corruption, but not the levels of the gold mafia. The gold mafia situation got worse when Zan was on its own. Coltart, thank you very much, young men, for writing. Keep up the work. Keep them young. Generate interest. It's important that we motivate young people by allowing them to be leaders. I always say that young people don't accept the dictum that says, you are tomorrow's leader. You will lead tomorrow. No, young people must lead today. When you look at Biko, when you look at Chris Hani, when you look at Tobogara, when you look at young Mugabe, young Kobo, they were young people who made a difference. So young people must not be told that they must lead today. And we empower them, we allow them to be leaders, and also we allow them to be CEOs, who allow them to run companies. So we must motivate young people by allowing them to be leaders and allow them to move forward. And also we sacrifice. You know, young people, do you really understand what it means to sacrifice? Let's look at Herbert Chidem. He was the first black lawyer in Zimbabwe. And then Parenya, first medical doctor. But they decided to sacrifice their personal success for this job. And they died. Now, how much are we prepared to sacrifice young people to bring about change? Nothing ever comes from soft ground. There's need for sacrifice. Nikita Mangena. Go and look at the record of Nikita Mangena. He was a very smart person. I think he was top of his class everywhere he went. Nikita Mangena. Go and look at the history. But what did he do? He sacrificed, went to the struggle, and he died. This level of sacrifice, I don't see it in our young people today. I'm not saying going to get killed, but can you understand the importance of delayed gratification? Do you understand the importance of making a difference, the importance of collective success as opposed to individual success? Look at the history of Chris Hani or the Black Panthers in America. All those young people in the civil rights movement were young people. So it's important that we understand that nothing will ever come through without sacrifice, without us trying our best. As we conclude, let me emphasize the issue of writing. You know, Mugabe, whether you like it or not, he went to Fort Year 1951, came back, taught in Zimbabwe, Zambia, taught in Ghana, came back in 1960, joined the NDP to 2017. So from 1951 to 2017, Robert Mugabe was on the front side of history, but he didn't write anything. I'm not even a pamphlet, nothing. And in my book, I had a conversation with him where I'm trying to encourage him to write. And I said, Mr. President, if you write a book, you become a proper millionaire. So what do you do? Not the one from stolen money. You make money, people buy your book. Because the enemies will buy 2 copies. What do you mean, Governor? And I gave you 2 examples. You know, Castro is not written. By the time he was dying and also getting out of office, they no book. What did Castro do? He went to the University of Havana, got a professor and a journalist who did the research from the Cuban Revolution in 1959 right up to the year 2000. Bay of Pigs, Cuban Missile Crisis, all the way. And then cut up all the newspapers and write down questions. And they sat down with Castro for 3 months talking. You show a document to Castro, and Castro remember and they talk. And after 3 months, they would say, oh, my life. That's how Castro did his book. And Mugabe said, oh, interesting. Then he changed his subject. I'll give another example of Steve Jobs. When Steve Jobs had cancer, pancreatic cancer, he went to Walter Isaacson. Walter Isaacson is a biographer of presidents. So Steve Jobs says to Walter, Walter, can you do my biography? Walter said, no, you're too young, go away, come back after 50 years. He said, no. I can't come back after 50 years, I'm dying, I've got pancreatic cancer. And then so they worked together, and Steve Jobs was open doors. He called Bill Gates. Bill Gates talked Walter, Bill Clinton talked Walter, and then open doors and the book. The classic book on Steve Jobs was done by Walter Isaacson. All these examples I gave to all men, but you just say interesting, then change the subject. We must realize it is important. They say when an old man dies in Africa, it is like a library has been burned down. Gomo wrote, but guess what? Gomo wrote because you will get them. When he had these problems with Mugabe in 85 to 87, he went to England and he wrote My Life. After he came back, after Unit 87, nothing. Musika, nothing. John Gomo, nothing. Shamerera, nothing. Zobo, so where is the post? Volume 1, Volume 2. There's nothing there in machine from Zobo. Don't pontificate about it. We must document, we must write. So Tegere did a piece of work, but again, because it almost seems like when people fall out of favor, that's when they write, when they're in trouble. When they're in power, they don't write. I used to talk to Musika and try to encourage, but nothing came out of that. John, nothing. And Robert is my main one, you know. But that's why I'm speaking, I'm writing what he told, because I mean, he never wrote anything. And by the way, it's a parting short now. Tribalism. In my book, you get Mugabe telling you that my Zizil group. You know, he tells me a story. When I came out of jail and I went to Mozambique with Tekere, my ambition was to go to Ghana to see where my son was buried. So I stayed in Mozambique. I was, put in detention he was actually almost isolated by Samora. Samora did not trust him for 19 months. Then eventually he got accepted, went to London. He tells me that when he got to London, I wish to do it. Ndakakobwa nemazezuru. Zvekuti kompati makara nemaniko. Jokuno mzoko, tokuno mazezuru. You know, in Zambia there was a big fight between Manika and Makaranga, Chitepo's death. So the Zezuru had left Zambia for this. So Mugabe was being, he tells me, he was being told by his Zezuru friends, what are you doing in a party for the Karangas and Manikas? Leave this party, go to Zorewa where we are, the Zezurus. You know what he said to them? Guys, you make it worse, come back, my Zezuru friends, so we can make a difference from within. This is Mugabe telling me, and I was very naive as a young person, I didn't know these guys were so cast in their tribalism. And of course, you know, if you look at the history, after Mugabe went back into 75, they all came back, Chamarina. What I'm saying to you is, there is a serious problem of ethnicity in this country, and I got it from big guy, confessing to me. Now this young man has taken over, and what is he doing? Midlands, Karanga, clansmen, health ambassador. Who's the help if your wife is the health ambassador? Anyway, I'm saying in my book I'm very graphic about our challenges because we have to fix it. And I also have excellent conversation with that Nambo, General Mutu. We used to sit at the Heroes next to him in Mugabe's over there, and he said, I'll put this a bit of shona. And didn't wrong and I'm Current or no Mugabe. He tells me a story, it's in the book. When Mugabe went to Mozambique, Samara didn't want to see him. So Samara called General. Someone, who is your leader? Mugabe. Samara spat on you. Get out! He gave me a handshake. Get out! And when he was leaving, Samara's PA says, look, if you are talking to Samora, don't talk about Mugabe. Samora is close to stop. This thing won't work. Who's your leader? I said it's Sitole, but you put Mugabe during the war and give it back to Stole. Better. Then you know the killer mind, which says, Umukazia, Kanogona, Taraka, that's all the press conference, Kovaka, Tamarament, Samora and Yereba for Wajira. So Mugabe's eloquence and the support from Samora and Nyerere. Mugabe tells me Nyerere hated me. He only appreciated me after I became Prime Minister. So read my book for all these stories. I thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you everybody. This was indeed an exciting evening. I can't resist saying one thing about Mutambara because of the question that was raised about gold mafia. Yeah, I can't resist. I will just say this one. And we are closing. I will take your time because I realize we have kept you for too long. See, one day Mutambara calls me early in the morning on Sunday, and he was flying to Victoria Falls with Mugabe. And Mugabe had read a newspaper by the name Sunday, this sister to Zimbabwe Independent. What do you call it? The Standard. Yeah, the Standard. And the headline in the Standard was, Ministers corrupt, says boy. The story reads, 11 ministers of ZANU-PF had dipped their hands into the national team, and 4 ministers from MDC had done the same. So Mugabe read the paper and was talking to the deputy prime minister, and he was, according to him, he says, Mugabe, Moyo, where are you? Mugabe is very livid. He says, you are trying to be a super minister. How do you talk about other ministers? So the story is then on Monday. I was called by Mugabe because the story was 11 ministers corrupt, 4 ministers corrupt, from certain enterprises that, but I had this without wasting the time. So then Mugabe says, look, you don't talk about ministers, you are not a super minister. Give me all those papers, all that evidence that you have. You are no longer going to talk about it. I will deal with my 11, and the Prime Minister will deal with his 4. And the Prime Minister was there as well. That was the end of the story. No 11,
were dealt with, no phone were dealt with. So I just thought I could say that. Otherwise, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for the evening. It was very exciting ideas, exchange of ideas. For now, where is Norman to come here and give us the where we are going, what we are going to do. But those that are going to buy the book and you want it to be signed, please, the signing, it can be signed here. But Norman, please come over. Otherwise, let's give a hand of applause to our author. Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We have refreshments outside on the balcony, and the books are with me at the back. We are selling soft bags for $20 and the hard bags are $30. So Professor will be happy to sign and give you a nice message on the books. Thank you.
I think we are done, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much once again. No one left before we ended. This was stunning. Thank you. Siabo. Chai cheers in fun. Chai